Yeah, I love custom shirts. Do you remember SARS? SARS was a good time, wasn't it? There's this whole thing where media people found out, oh no, there's a strange pneumonia type of thing going around. Let's scare the shit out of the public. Ugh. Fucking ridiculous. And why does the media do that, Hype up a big story to make everybody afraid of shit. On one level, it's greed. On one level, it's all about producing good television that people want to watch. Compelling television that you can't look away from. Programming of your mind. This is just an alternative programming. That's all it is. That's all it is. I can freely admit I grew up in a bit of a brainwashed mindset. But frankly, so did you. The difference is I was able to find out about my brainwashing, unprogram myself from my brainwashing. And the screwy thing is, I think my form of brainwashing was better than the form of brainwashing that you guys got. So maybe y'all should wash your brains yourself. That's an interesting thing. Is that why is it that people in general behave the ways that they do? I was reading a very interesting article last night that was written by a 22-year-old young woman who was talking about the culture around casual sex, hookup culture, and things like this. And it was very interesting to see like a woman's candid perspective on this dating culture that we currently have. Because it was not the Cosmo, here's some hot sex tips, lick the back of your boyfriend's kneecaps, like Cosmo and their retarded thing. But that's like part of what creates this casual sex culture. But it was interesting to read in her article, she was talking about how she knew, and I guess, what might currently be eluding this author is like where her programming that she knew all these things came from. But, she knew a bunch of these weird dating rules that I never bought into, like the wait for 3 days, or, be disinterested, but, don't say what you actually mean, and, I noticed that was the conventional thing, but I also thought the conventional wisdom on that was stupid, so I never really bought into it. It was the same reason why I never bought into the yo dog, scene guy. No, you have a yo true, because that's retarded. And it's like, but it's like a self-imposed retardation. Like that's the delusion of being cool, right? Yo, dog. Yo, fuck books, nigga, get money. Like, I was talking to my buddy Akuna about that. He was saying, like, he was reading some Confucius, and one of his boys came up and was like, yo, fuck books, nigga, get money. Like, what? Fuck books, get money? Do you know how people... And this is the thing, is like, why was our culture I'm going to argue, intentionally dumbed down. Why was North American society intentionally made into this materialistic, self-centered type of culture? Because that's not what we had. There's always been capitalism, there's always been elements of materialism, but there's always been there was, kind of a back and forth between good and evil. And this is the thing. It's like good and evil is a term that can help people actually decipher and sort through this shit. Now, the first thing that people should correct in their own minds about the perception of evil is that everyone is both good and evil. Everyone. Now, some people feel that, well, the church says I'm evil, so I'm gonna be evil. Newsflash, the church is evil. And it's a weird thing. Because this concept that there isn't good and evil is an academic one. And it's a flawed academic concept. Reading this girl's article about the literal prison of emotions that she was living in, and the fact that she doesn't feel like she can find a real relationship in this day and age. That's the nature of evil, right there. Evil is about trying to block people from having love, because love is good. And so in our dating, there's been a bunch of, frankly, really bad advice that's been circulated around, like ideas about like, oh yeah, casual sex culture is fine, and polyamory, yeah, that's not gonna take a toll on your partner. Like, there's certain... How are we this stupid? That we can't recognize, oh wait, I would probably feel a little bit jealous, and that would probably hurt in some weird, And then it becomes this weird type of thing where it's like, well, I mean, if you would feel bad about your polyamorous partner sleeping with someone else, maybe you have some things to work on. When really it's like, maybe this polyamory experiment is probably really realistically only going to work for 2 or 3% of the population, if that. I think that's pretty generous. But I mean, sure, polyamorous people will say that they're happy in their relationships, just like children that are being abused will say that they're not. It's a delusional thing. It's like, oh yeah, no, I'm totally fine with this. But where does this brainwashing and conditioning come from that's like making us so retarded? Academia. Academia is extremely compartmentalized. And it became more about collecting money from students and other investors than it did about educating and spreading enlightenment. So I'm going to claim I have a GHD. And that is a funk doctorate. And I'm going to further claim that university is a waste of time. Because you have the internet. You don't need to incur a bunch of debt to go into university. Half these corporations aren't going to be there for very much longer. University was about breaking people's common sense off of the evolutionary trajectory that we've been on for the last 45 years. Since the end of the Second World War, the Korean War, we've been on this type of trajectory of moving towards something different in society. I'm aware I just said university was a waste of time, and so a lot of people are offended. You have attacked the credibility of my $40,000 debt note. How dare you say this doesn't mean I'm more educated than you? Frankly, I think if you have a degree, it's a sign that you're kind of stupid. Because you could never piece together just how bad your society is, you know? And that's what university mainly is. It's a form of brainwashing to teach people to be elitist pricks. And it's funny because, like, you know, if you're going to be an elitist prick, you should have money. I feel that's just the thing. And right now in our society, you know, most of these, like, upper middle class, middle class, and even some lower middle class, and even some upper lower class fuckers, you know, they get, like, real snobby. Like, some of these university pricks are, like, way too snobby for how poor they are. You know? Like, you can't claim that your H&M fashion somehow makes you, you know, bought, of course, on credit cards and in a ballooning debt problem. But you can't say that your H&M clothing made by, like, child slave laborers makes you better than the fucking guy that got his coat at the Salvation Army. You know what the difference is? The guy that got his coat at the Salvation Army didn't really contribute to any of the fucking bullshit. He didn't contribute to slave labor. What did he? He was part of recycling something. You know? Recycle clothing. Oh, but it looks so... Fuck you, you business-minded cunt fashionista prick. That's like one of my other pet peeves about the gay community. Way too petty and materialistic. Really, we're gonna get all wrapped up in, like, oh my god, what are you wearing? What are you wearing? What are you wearing? How do we not destroy the planet we're living on right now? Where's that conversation? You know? Because that's all that anyone should be fucking talking about, is how to not destroy the planet right now. Because that's basically what's going to happen, is that we're about to destroy the planet. And it's going to happen in our lifetime. Isn't that going to be exciting? You know? Everyone's growing up right now with these ideas of, like, oh yeah, you know, I'll be in the nursing home one day. Yo. Being old in a Mad Max style civilization is going to be pretty fucking interesting, right? And this is the thing, is people have been conditioned to be extremely tribal for the collapse of society. And what I'm working on is trying to prevent the collapse of society. What's interesting is that a bunch of university pricks are going to try and say that I'm not worth hearing. Meanwhile, they are literally contributing to the collapse of society by being ignorant, snobby fuckers, unwilling to hear scientific perspectives and viewpoints that are different than their own. That's the story of the human race, really. You know, there are periods where the human race is willing to hear unconventional ideas. And those unconventional ideas do things for us, you know, like we get electricity and flight or fire. You know, we get those pieces of technology. We think, oh wow, this is great. You can fly now. Wonderful. Oh, let's put guns on the plane and so we can shoot people from the flying thing. What? But we could have just... But you could... Why do you need that? Why do you need to kill people? And people don't... People are so brainwashed. And the thing is, the brainwashing on planet Earth has been going on for thousands of years. Thousands of years. Okay? So, the spiritual control grid that's controlling your mind right now, that's been around since before Christ. And Christ was actually this guy that was able to somehow break the illusion of the spiritual control grid with a type of emperor has no clothes kind of moment. I always think it's funny when I hear some university twit try and say Jesus never even existed. You're retarded. If you think Jesus Christ, the historical figure, never existed in history, you're stupid. Because he did. That's a matter of historical fact. But some people are so irrational in their hatred of this different idea that they can't really comprehend. That there has always been persecution of people that have religiously different ideas. That's been an unfortunate reality of the human race for a long time. For example, we could go all the way back to the Bible, where all of the guys that were trying to talk about Jesus got killed. And they lovingly let those people kill them without lifting a finger in their own defense. That's interesting, you know. Joseph Smith was somebody that had different religious ideas. And he was killed for his different religious ideas, along with his brother. Martin Luther King had a dream. And it was a dream that included some different religious perspective of Christianity than what was currently around at the time. And they killed him for it. I'm a stand-up comic that believes they talk to God on a daily basis. what's going to happen to me. That's the thing, I don't care. Yeah, the struggle's been like getting to me a little bit lately, getting me down a little bit. But that's all part of the illusion. It's all part of the mystique. That's all part of the way of God. Is that weird that I believe in God and still like George Carlin? Like love George Carlin? Like would even be willing to go out on a limb and say, guys, George Carlin was probably a prophet of the true God. Bill Hicks almost was definitely a prophet of the true God. But some people go, wait a minute. These guys, were atheists, were speaking out against God. No, they were critiquing the church. Very intently. Very smartly. They were critiquing the church. And I have critiques of the church as well. But I mean, I think there's a certain point where the general public should become aware of the spiritual struggle that does produce comedy for all of eternity. And that, of course, is the debate between God and Satan over whether or not Satan gets to stop being Satan and start being Lucifer again. And that's the sweetheart deal of all world peace, is God forgiving the devil and letting the devil return. But can the devil repent? That's the question. Now that sounds crazy to most people. So maybe you should watch the movie Brazil. Robin Williams has a very excellent part in that film. Because I think, Brazil, although it's like one of those movies that when you watch it you feel weird, it's definitely a movie that's worth watching if you want to have a spiritual understanding of stuff, or, And this is the thing, it's I would assume at this point that most people watching this are looking for some type of spiritual understanding. And the funny thing about looking for a spiritual understanding is it's like an itch that you didn't even know you were trying to scratch. There was... when I first started going to bars and stuff, hanging out with people, drinking, which went against, of course, the brainwashing that I had grown up with, I observed people. Got to know them, see things that they were doing. And the interesting thing is that in bars all across the world, on a nightly basis, not all of the people in the bar, but there are people looking for God at the bottom of a bottle, the end of his joint or smoke. There are people looking for God in that girl's pussy. People looking for God in that dude's mouth. And the thing is, God is in all of those places. That's kind of the whole thing about God. He's fucking everywhere. But I think what makes this religious perspective different than others is because it's definitely more buffet style. In my opinion, like the role of a priest in the 21st century isn't to it's what it's always been. To mourn with those that mourn and grieve with those that grieve. It's to seek after the needs of the poor. And the churches of today are failing the poor on a massive scale. To any religiously influential person that may eventually see this, I would say this: you are accountable for every cent that your religious institution is in possession of. You are. And if your religious institution claims to be a religious institution that's representing Jesus Christ, you should have no money left. And this is the problem, is that the churches, just like the universities, became a business. Interesting thing about the whether or not God's ever going to forgive the devil routine is that there are satanic priests. Now, I heard that in order to be ordained a satanic priest, you had to be ordained a Catholic priest. I think it's interesting when you see videos online of like priests doing cocaine. I mean, I'm a priest that smokes marijuana, but God made marijuana. God made the cocoa plant, the coca plant. God didn't make cocaine. I mean, if you want to chew coca leaves, I don't think God would have a problem with that, but the cocaine shit, God does have a problem with. I can testify to that. LSD, I think God's kind of neutral on that. LSD is a drug that you take when you're ready to see that the emperor has no clothes. But the thing is, he'll still have his crown. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that story recently. The fairy tale, the emperor having no clothes, and the children being the only ones courageous enough to point that out, you know? Maybe that could have been a story about undue religious influence, just like the tale of the Pied Piper might serve as a story of undue religious influence. And I guess people are afraid of religiously minded people because they don't understand. So, I'd like you to read the first chapter of the book of John. And gain some insight into exactly what God is. Because it says, in the beginning, the Word was good. And the Word was with God. The Word came down among the children of men and was made into flesh. What does that mean? It could mean many different things to you, the viewer / reader. And that's the beauty of a mysterious religion that's never fully explained. Is that everyone is entitled to their own perception and experience of it. And I personally believe that it is not my place to tell people what they understand or don't understand about God. But that's what I think, that it's not my place. But God keeps trying to say that it is my place. It's just a very hard thing to kind of gently nudge someone into saying, you know, you might not have free will right now. Why did you give away your free will? You can get your free will back, but the only way you can ever get your free will back is by forsaking the things that take away your free will. And there are certain limitations that I have that protect my free will. So